I would look into resilience and I would look into positive psychology.
Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Hey, Hugh. So we have a question here from a trader about recognizing different types of markets. So this trader says, I'd like to know when the market is trading in a range and trade it like one instead of pretending it's going to break out into a trend, which when it does, it's a fake. Boom, I take a loss. Or to recognize a trend and then get in at the right time instead of at the end when, you guessed it, it's another trading range. And also to hold on to a winning trend without panicking and selling out and getting back in and repeat. so this trader is obviously frustrated. We've all been there, right?
All been there, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts on this, but what's your impression, or what do you think is going on here?
Yeah, two things come to mind. Number one is like maybe you got to work on a little bit of patience. I think a lot of people try to pick a range or a trend in the early stages, and it could go either way. So I think you have to learn how to identify that. And then number two would be identifying it. So either wait for the range to develop or use an indicators or something like that will give you a good idea that you are in a trend if you have a hard time spotting it, just with a naked chart. So you could do like multiple, like 3, 4, 5 indicators to show you that, when they're stacked up correctly, that'll show you that, you're probably in a trend, and that's a good place that you can look for some trades. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly there's like the mechanical side of it. I agree. Like there's a lot that you could identify as, okay, this is how I'm going to trade. I'm going to wait until this happens if it's trending to identify that it's a pullback and define it as a pullback and all that, right? Mm-hmm. But the other side of it also is kind of like the mental side of dealing with these sorts of situations, right? I think you could kind of split this question into what do I do mechanically, which is technically on the surface level what this trader is talking about, right? Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do here. It just everything I try kind of like if you ever we actually, when I first started trading, my friend and I, we actually did this. We were like, it was so bad. Well, we tripled the money on the first night or the second night trading the Swissy. And by the Friday, we basically were busted, lost all my money. But then we got some more money scraped together. And we started, like, after this sort of thing kept happening, we started thinking, why don't we just reverse our trades? And I think everyone's been there, right? Where you have this system and you think it's so great, you start trading it and it's like everything goes against you, right? Which is kind of the frustration that's seeping out of this question from this trader. So there's that side of it, like the mechanical side of it. Like, how do I identify a range? How do I identify a trend? How do I know when it's a pullback versus the end of the trend? There's all that part of it, right? But there's also the other side of it, which is like the mental, like, how do I build up resistance or immunity to this sort of thinking where I just feel like everything's going against me? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I see this, is like, yes, okay, fine. If you want to do the mechanical stuff, my favorite thing is to just look at what people think. So if you find on the dark internet, these not really on the dark web, but in little corners of the internet, you'll find brokers that actually tell you what percentage of traders are long or short different markets, right? And I find that to be extremely useful information for identifying the strength of a trend. I use it as a proxy of trend strength. In other words, when all of these traders are going long, I want to be short, and vice versa, right? Mm-hmm. So I use that as a proxy. But that's, the mechanical. You can look at, patterns, and are the candles getting really small and wicky and closing near the middle? Okay, that's probably a pullback, right? Are the candles really big and giant? Then that's obviously the trend push. So you got to wait for another little pullback, right? And pullbacks come in all different types, shapes, and sizes, and all that. But to me, the more interesting aspect of this question is, what do I do? Like, I feel like everything's going wrong. What do I do? You know what I mean? And we've all been there. Like I said, my friend and I, we literally, when I first started trading currencies, we literally, like, we're trying to map out a plan. Like, how can we, like, take our system And then instead of taking the trade, just reverse it because
Or
everything's
turn your
going
chart
against.
upside down, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Actually, and I know a guy who did that. He invited traders to trade for his fund, and they traded on demo to qualify. And they weren't trading on demo; they were trading on live accounts, and he flipped their trades. So I mean, and they made money for him. And he was like, "Man, the most difficult thing was just trying to get those traders to keep trying to qualify because I was losing my best traders." Because he was,
Yeah.
oh, it's just crazy. But anyway, the point is, I think you need to build up some resilience. So this sort of thing is going to be rooted in two areas. So there's like the feeling, emotional part of it, and there's the logical. You can build up your logical confidence by doing testing, right? Lots of testing, get your data, get your numbers, and okay, typically, I have a 48% win rate. So what does that mean? Well, any given trade is actually slightly more likely to be a loss than a win, right? So you can couch it in sort of statistics and logical mind. And then the other side of it is building up your feelings that you're going to be successful and actually, going, hang on. So I feel like every time I take a trend trade, the trend is over. Is that actually the truth? Can I look at the numbers and see, is that true? Is it always the case that when I get into a trend, a pullback on a trend that it fizzles out? Well, actually, no, it's not really. If I look at my numbers, right? And how many of these winning trend trades do I really need? Maybe you have a strategy that has a lower win rate, but like once or twice a year, the trends are so strong and so significant that makes up for all of your losses that you've had the last 6 months, and you end up in the black, right? There are a lot of trend traders that trade that way. There are a lot of professional traders. There are a lot of funds that trade that way, where they literally have months and months and months, even years, where they're down 20%, down 12%, down 8%. And then 1 year, boom, they're up 600%. They're up 300%. Like that's normal for trend trading, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would look into resilience and I would look into positive psychology. There's a whole wealth of information there for building up your resistance to these emotional, I think resilience is really important for traders, one of the overlooked things. And so if I were this trader, I would be working on my resilience and certainly, building out a strategy. Like we said, all that stuff can be done. And, getting your stats and your numbers and all that, that's great. But the part of it, I think that's probably going to be most useful. Like here's an example. Actually, I was talking to a trader the other day and she was explaining this. And it's a really good a really good analogy, because we were talking about resilience and she was saying, I've learned that I imagine that she's driving her car and the windshield, it's raining. Okay. And so all these raindrops are hitting her windscreen. And so these are like issues that come up. So these could be problems in your trading, problem trades, difficulties in your life, right? There are these little drops that hit your windscreen, and then you are the wipers. You just wipe them away. just let them go, let them fall out. And while it might seem like it's overwhelming when it's raining, it's all just a bunch of little tiny individual drops that you can just wipe away and let them go. You can leave them there on your windscreen as long as you want, but you're also able to flip on the wipers and flick it away, right? So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting way to see these little issues that creep up that we all have. And particularly when you're in this sort of stage of your trading where you're thinking, geez, nothing's going right. It can be really difficult. I understand.
Yeah. I would also, one thing that came up when you're saying that is that I would also look into your previous programming, right? Like from anywhere from when you were born until right now, and kind of look at your thought patterns, because the way that you were talking, or the way this trader is talking, sounds like a friend I have, and the way I used to talk before. So I always had this mentality that things are going to go wrong, right? Things are not going to work out. So at a certain point, I would just give up and stop trying. It could be this trader psychology, I don't know, but I would invite you to look at that, and like you say, look at specific situations where you did succeed and things did work out. And kind of build on that, right? And not dwell on, what went wrong, but look for a solution instead. Yeah,
it's true. And it's so easy to get into the catastrophizing mindset where like one little thing goes wrong, and then you build up this illogical chain about why everything's going to go wrong, right? Like that, and that's something you got to guard against. And there are antidotes for that. They're just simple ways of rephrasing things. Going, okay, Yes, I've had 5 losing trades in a row. Have I ever had 5 losing trades in a row in my testing before? Yes. Okay, fine. What happened after that? Well, it tend to be a big winner after that. Okay, all right. So could this just be normal, everyday trading for my trend trading strategy? Yeah, it could be. So you just kind of talk yourself off the ledge sort of thing and get back to a more logical reasoning, because it's so easy to get into that really negative state when things aren't going well. And I understand it. We've all been there. Like, we're not like making fun of this trader. And one of the reasons why we don't mention names is because we don't want people to think that we're not poking fun at them. We're just kind of digging into the question and saying, well, is this really the question? I guess you could at one level say that's the surface question, but really I think it comes down to exactly what you're saying. You know what I mean? You've got to be really strong psychologically to withstand. I mean, that's trading. That's the game. The fact is, for every trader that ends up trading well and going into like decades of trading, there's lots of traders that gave up along the way, right? The way I look at those traders is they didn't have the resilience to continue trading long enough to the point where they made it to the other side, right? It's really more of a survival of the fittest sort of thing, or who keeps at it the longest gets to the point where it's worked. And though it's so easy to just drop off and go, oh, I'm going to go sell multi-level vitamins or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it really is. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to think that we're, talking bad about anybody or anything like that.
No.
There's plenty of times where I've asked a question and I didn't know this at the time, but I realized, oh, that's not what I really wanted to know. I was asking some sort of surface level thing, and the real answer was deeper. And sometimes I heard they told me the deeper answer, but it didn't register because I thought it didn't answer the surface level question. So we're trying to get deeper in this and hopefully help more people that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
All right, cool. Thanks, Walter.
See ya.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.